Welcome to episode 2 of Another Aggie Podcast. I am your host, Taylor Harrison. Today's date is November 8th, 2021. Guys, we have a jam-packed show for you guys tonight. I got a couple announcements to give out about the show. We got to preview the Auburn game. Not preview, we got to recap the Auburn game, preview the Ole Miss game, and I want to talk about some recruiting a little bit. There's a lot of hype going around for the Aggies right now. It's going to be a great month of November, and if you guys want to stay tuned on all things Aggies and whatnot, go ahead and drop that follow button. Click that follow button, subscribe button, make sure to leave a like and whatnot, and stay tuned, guys. Got a lot of content coming out for you guys really soon. I'm planning to do this show probably 3 or 4 times a week. I do want to have a set schedule. I haven't made one up yet because I am a student. I'm very busy, and my week changes week to week based on my exams and whatnot that I have in life. Anyways, I think we should dive right into it. It's going to be a great show tonight. I have no idea how long it's going to go, but hopefully you can enjoy. All right, so the first thing I want to talk about is the Auburn A&M game, specifically defense. Now, Auburn has a pretty good defense. They have been limiting teams to under their season average in passing and rushing and whatnot in total defense. However, something didn't stand out to me when I was watching the game, and that is A&M ran the ball for over 200 yards. Now, it doesn't seem like it. There was only 1 or 2 big chunk plays, and if you really think about it, A-Chain fumbled the ball on one of them, so those yards that he gained really didn't count. However, if he doesn't fumble the ball, those yards mean something. So A&M ran the ball for, I believe, 217 yards. I have the number right here. Let me pull it up. A&M versus Auburn. I can get you the exact number. A&M ran the ball for... where is it? I have the game stats pulled up right now. Maybe in the box score. A&M rushing. Team 217 yards. Yep. Isaiah Spiller had 112. A-Chain had a 98, but he also had that fumble, and those yards are included in the fumble, if you guys are wondering. Anaya Smith had a carry for a yard. Zach Alzada had 2 for 8. And he was sacked, I believe, once or twice, if I'm not mistaken. Now, the other thing I want to talk about, that Auburn game, man, that was just a great defensive showing. Now, a lot of people are talking about, well, A&M's offense didn't do that good. You know, they didn't score a touchdown against Auburn. Well, there are 2 things. One, Auburn's defense is better than most people give them credit for. They're not as big and athletic as big SEC teams like A&M, Alabama. LSU's defense is bigger and more athletic. They're just not playing as good. Although they did hold Alabama to 20 and 20 yards of rushing. That's pretty impressive. However, Auburn's defense is playing really good for their size, and they're surprising a lot of people. Now, they didn't allow A&M to score a touchdown, but A&M shot themselves in the foot a couple times Saturday night. Let me explain. So, the very first drive, A&M's driving the ball. There's a big run. Spiller breaks like a 15-yard run, gets down to the 5 or 6 yard line. Auburn is, how do I put this? They're calling a cadence. You're not allowed to do that in football. That should be a flag. But they're calling cadence, and that causes A&M to get 2 false start penalties on the same drive. The next play is a run for no gain. The next play is a tight end screen. Weidemeyer gets most of those yards back. We have great position, 3rd and goal from like the 4, 5, I believe it was, but there's a holding call. So those 3 penalties right there immediately took off at least the possibility of 7 points. And then there was another really big issue in the red zone. There was, I believe, a busted cover. No, that wasn't. The penalties weren't on the first drive. On the first drive, we had a bad play call, and then we had it was a bad read by Zach Calzada. He should have handed the ball off to Spiller. He had a touchdown if he just hands the ball off to him. And then we had a busted assignment on the offensive line, which allowed 2 rushers to have a clear path to Calzada, which forced him to throw the ball away. So that was 3 points. The penalties were another 3 points instead of touchdowns. So that was really big. Those are 14 points left on the board. A&M has been great in the red zone this year. You really don't see a lot of penalties, or if they've had penalties, they've been really good at overcoming them. Not so much in this game, and that's expected with a really good defense, although A&M did shoot themselves in the foot a little bit too much, in my opinion. So that's just my recap on that game. A couple points left on the board. Defense, outstanding. 17-7. Played some of the best football that they played all year. Chappelle and, I forget 17's name. Jalen Jones. Chappelle and Jalen Jones played amazing coverage football. I believe Jones, the last 2 plays of the game, he had a pass breakup and an interception. So that's insane. Fought to the end and whatnot. So it was really, really good. And we got Chapman back. Chapman had a good over-the-top reception. I believe Jimbo said in his in his interview today with the press that he doesn't want Chapman to fall, and he could have taken that for a touchdown. He could have, but he slid, and Zach Calzada's lowering his shoulder, which is dislocating it. Speaking of that, he should be fine for this game. Jimbo said he should be practicing today, so nothing really to worry about there. However, medically, he did, whenever you move something out, pop something out of a socket, whatever it is, you do tear some tendons and whatnot. So as long as he has strength, move that arm around and whatnot, he should be fine. He is going to be hurt, just not injured, and he might have to play through some pain, but Zach Calzada, right after he's been injured, has come back in and led 2 game-winning drives, or not a game-winning drive, but it was tied 3-3 when he got hurt, and he led A&M to a 20-3 victory after he came in after being hurt. So rest my case, don't injure Zach Calzada if you do want to win the game. Anyways, let's jump on over to the Ole Miss game. There's a lot to talk about there. A little thirsty real quick. Ole Miss game. I believe that is a top 15 matchup. Ole Miss plays number 16 Ole Miss plays number 14 A&M. Those are the college football playoff rankings. I believe it is 11 versus 12 and the AP and coaches poll. It's going to be a really interesting night. A really good offense that's banged up, and a really strong defense. Really good passing defense. Great at getting to the quarterback. I want you to hear this. Tyree Johnson, number 3 for A&M, is hurt. He only played on 3rd downs because he was limited in snap counts because he's recovering against, I think it's a hamstring injury that he suffered against South Carolina. It's something with a lower body injury. He came in and had 2 sacks, only playing on 3rd down. One of them was a strip sack. He got SEC Defensive Lineman of the Week. So if that doesn't tell you how special he is, then I don't know what will. A&M has insane depth on the D-line, and I think this is going to be a great matchup. I think they match up great against Ole Miss. I'm going to get into my score predictions in a second. I want to compare the 2 lines of scrimmage for Ole Miss real quick in A&M. Ole Miss's offensive line in the beginning of the year was really good. They were probably one of the best offensive lines in the league. They were running the ball at will pretty much. Matt Corral was carrying the ball. They have 3 running backs that have over 400 yards. Matt Corral, I think, has 600 yards or 500 yards, I believe. I think he's their leading rusher. Yes, he's their leading rusher of 528 yards, 116 carries for a quarterback. That is ridiculous. And the other 3 running backs, Ely, Connor, and Parrish, have 400 yards each. Matt Corral is doing pretty good this year. He has a Heisman campaign. I don't think he's going to win the Heisman after that loss to Auburn, though. They just shut him down really good. He is hurt. He is playing on a bad ankle from the Tennessee game. And he honestly didn't do amazing in the Liberty game. But he has 2,527 yards, 16 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. And then their leading receiver is Dontario Drummond with 658 yards, 40 receptions, and 6 touchdowns. He will be out for the game with a hamstring issue, so he will not come back. Their other leading receiver, I believe, Jonathan Mingo, he is still out with a foot injury. And then Braylon Sanders, their other receiver that's really good, he's limited and he won't be 100%. So Ole Miss will be playing their backup receivers against our defense with a little bit of action from number 13, Braylon Sanders. Hopefully he doesn't take the top off of A&M too much. I think he might go for one big play. He's always usually good for one. And Matt Corral is really good at getting the ball to him, especially open receivers. So I want to hop into this offensive line and defensive line previews. Like I said, Ole Miss had a really good line. They got banged up. I believe Ben Brown is their player that got hurt. He's out for the year. And then their center got hurt last week, I believe. I don't know if he's going to be ready to go for the game. and whatnot. But this Ole Miss offensive line is allowing a lot of pressures on not Zach Calzada, Matt Corral, and I think our defense matches up really good with that offensive line. DeMarvin Leal, Jaden Peavy, Michael Clemens, everyone on that offensive line matches up really good. Fadil Diggs, it's gonna be a really good matchup in my opinion. Now I want to go to the other side of the ball, switch the teams. A&M's offensive line versus Ole Miss's defensive line. Ole Miss has one of the nation's leading sack leaders in I can't remember his name. Sam Williams Jr. or Senior, one of the two. He's really good. He's averaging, I think, a sack a game. I believe he has 10 sacks, maybe 9. He's doing really good. He's going to be going up against our tackles, Jameer Johnson or Deuce Fothery. It's going to be really interesting to see. I think our offensive line is going to be able to generate enough push. In fact, I know our offensive line is going to be able to generate enough push. Ole Miss is 13th in the SEC in rushing defense, right in between South Carolina and Missouri, who A&M ran for 300 yards against both times. So I believe A&M's going to run for 300 yards. I think our offensive line has gotten better. I would honestly hinge to bet that it's going to be in the 350 range. If A&M runs the ball for 350 yards, I don't see a way that Ole Miss can win this game, because that means A&M's averaging 6 or 7 yards a carry. They're going to control the clock, which is going to keep Ole Miss's offense off the field. And if that happens, that's worst case scenario for Ole Miss. In fact, I also want to get into that right now. Worst case scenarios for both teams this Saturday. Worst case scenario for Ole Miss, 3 and outs. Can't have them. Art Briles' offense, fast tempo, spaced out, hurry up. If you don't let your defense rest, you're not going to be able to do very well on the defensive side of the ball, especially with A&M, who likes to control clock and pound it and pound it and pound it and wear you out. A&M's offense is designed to wear down teams. Now, Ole Miss's defense was pretty good in the first half of the year. They've had a lot of injuries, mostly on the offensive side of the ball, but their depth is really showing up. Ole Miss does not have a lot of depth on the defensive line, a lot of depth in the linebacking core. They're good for about a half of football, maybe, and then you saw Liberty expose them in the second half, rushing for 250 yards, I believe. So Liberty's rushing, a G5 team is rushing for 250 yards against an Ole Miss defense, which they showed signs of life in the beginning of the year, but I just don't think they have the depth for November. They're really banged up. They had an early bye week, which is unfortunate for Ole Miss. And the matchup is not favorable. Going up against 4 NFL draft picks. I'm saying that right now. The 4 starters on the A&M defensive line are all going to the NFL. Excuse me. Leal is going first round for sure. Tyree Johnson is going to go to the league. Michael Clemens is going to go to the league. Jaden Peavy is going to go to the league. I don't know what rounds they're going to go to the league in, or if they're going to be undrafted free agents. They're all going to go to the league and have a chance. That's how talented they are. So, and then our offensive line, we have some studs, man. We have some studs. Those 2 true freshmen that are playing, Bryce Foster and Deuce Fothery, or not Deuce Fothery. Is it Deuce Fothery? Yeah, it is. My bad. That's his nickname, Deuce. But anywho, those guys, Reuben Fothery, that's his name. Really good. They are doing insane things. I believe on that play that Blake Boast came in, they both opened up a massive hole for Spiller to run through. It is like parting the Red Sea kind of hole. It was ridiculous. Anyways, so on to my score predictions. Actually, I didn't get finished the worst case scenarios. My bad. So worst case scenario for Ole Miss, 3 and outs. Can't have them. If you get 3 and outs, if Ole Miss is averaging, I don't know, not averaging, let's say most of their drives are 3 and outs, I'm sure they'll move the ball with some chunk plays and whatnot. But if, it's just 4 or 5 plays and their defense comes right back out and A&M can run the ball, and they can't stop A&M's run game, it's going to be a long night in Oxford. I'll be there. I'll see it. I'll let you know how it looks from the field. But I believe it's going to be a long night in Oxford. I believe that's what's going to happen. But let's go over A&M's worst-case scenario because this is a very losable game for A&M. I feel more confident about this game than I was about the Auburn game. But don't get me wrong, Ole Miss, you cannot sleep against them. They're an offensive mastermind. Worst-case scenario for A&M, we can't stop the run. That has been A&M's issue against an Art Briles offense. That was the issue against Kent State. We could not stop the run. I believe Kent State ran for close to 200 yards on A&M. And then we couldn't stop the run against Arkansas, who also runs a pretty similar offense. We'll also have a dual threat quarterback as well. Now, Matt Corral can run. He's hurt, though. So I believe Ole Miss's running game is going to depend on how well they can make A&M think Matt Corral's going to run it and go for a run because it's risky if you run the ball with Matt Corral. He's a Heisman quarterback, but, man, if he gets hit, it might not look so good. He's already hurt. Go running on a weak ankle as well. I believe he's hurt both ankles, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe it's the same one twice. Anywho, he doesn't get a rest, and every Saturday he just keeps re-aggravating it. So same injury's still there. He's just going to fight through the pain. Hopefully he doesn't get hurt, but if Ole Miss decides to run the ball with him too much, you might see him go down, which would be very sad because he is going to be a very good quarterback at the next level. He will go in the first round if he doesn't get hurt for the rest of the season. I mean, he's a Heisman candidate. That's who A&M's going up against. It's just Ole Miss doesn't have a defense. So worst case for A&M, they can't stop the run, which opens up the passing game for Matt Corral through play action. They're going to hit receivers deep. And if that happens, Ole Miss will win the game. If A&M cannot stop the run, this is the same script, just flipped. If A&M can't stop the run, Ole Miss is going to win the game. If Ole Miss can't stop the run, and there you go, 3 and out on offense, possession after possession, they will lose the game, and A&M will win. All right, next thing. Well, let's actually get on to my score prediction. I think A&M wins this game by 10. That's what I think. Now, I'm not saying they're going to. I think they are. They can very well lose this game by 14. It just depends on which Ole Miss defense we're going to get and who's healthy and who's not, and if our offense is going to be physical enough to move them, and if our defense is going to be physical enough to stop the run, because they got some speedsters at running back, man. Ely, well, man, he's like A-Chain. He can fly and make you miss. He is a little cannon. It is ridiculous. All right, on to the last segment. I want to talk about recruiting a little bit. Man, I've been following recruiting all day today. And this past weekend, it has been a really big weekend, guys. A&M added number 1 player in the nation, number 1 defensive lineman in the nation, Walter Nolan, to its recruiting rankings, as well as Chris Marshall, who is a top 100 prospect. It's a wide receiver, highly ranked 4-star kid. Man, I am excited for this year's recruiting class. A&M has a chance to have the number 1 recruiting class in the nation. And as things look, Walter Nolan's been recruiting for A&M for quite some time. Apparently, he's made up his mind a while ago that he was going to go to A&M, and he's been trying to get other kids to go to A&M. Per his Twitter and Bobby Taylor's Twitter, they're already working on getting Shamar Stewart here. They're already working on getting Harold Perkins here. Man, if we get those 2 guys, and Evan Stewart as well, that 5-star wide receiver, number 1 wide receiver in the nation, that's been crystal ball to Texas. Oh, man. That's going to be scary. A&M will have the number 1 class in the nation if they get those guys. It is looking scary. A&M's probably going to take 6 defensive linemen in this class. They're going to take 5 or 6 defensive backs. Offensive line's looking really good. We're probably in the lead for Cam Dewberry right now, from what I've heard, talking to Aggies today and a couple people over on 247. We're looking really good in the recruiting rankings, guys. A&M's ready to make a push in November. Early signing day is going to be really big as well. I'm interested to see who we're going to get because A&M really likes early enrollees, and if we can get some guys at early signing day to become early enrollees, oh man, Jimbo loves that, and those guys are probably going to see some playing time next year. Really hope Walter Nolan is going to be an early enrollee. It'd be great to see him in the spring game. I'd love to see that, but we can't be talking about the spring game. We got a whole month of November and playoffs and bowl games and whatnot to get through before we even think about talking about spring games. We also have a huge recruiting thing that's not over and done with yet. So, with that being said, guys, there's a lot of things to look forward to about A&M. Got a good showing against Auburn. I think A&M's going to win this weekend by 14 points. And we are red hot on the recruiting trail, guys. It's going to be great. Make sure to follow and subscribe and leave a like on the video and share this with all your friends and family, all your Aggie fans, all your Aggie friends. That would mean a lot to me. And lastly, I just want to say stay tuned because I have some more stuff coming out. Probably not tomorrow. I'm really busy tomorrow, but later this week. I will be flying up to Oxford this weekend to go watch A&M play at Ole Miss. And the reason I really, really am interested in this game is because my dad went to Ole Miss. Goes to Ole Miss. That'd be crazy. I don't know how that'd be possible. But he went to Ole Miss. I've been an Ole Miss fan my entire life. And then I decided to go to A&M and be the odd kid in the family. So I know a lot about Ole Miss football. I know a lot about A&M football. It's going to be a great weekend. I got a little bit of money on the game. Nice little friendly bet with my dad. I honestly think A&M's going to win this, guys. All signs are pointing to A&M to cover. I think if you're in a state that's legal, you should bet, and you're okay with sports betting, that you should bet A&M all the way up to +5 or to -5. I think that's really good. Lay the points. I think A&M wins this by more than a field goal for sure, and I think that's probably that happens 7 times out of 10. So it's a really good chance that A&M walks into Oxford, wins. College Game Day is going to be there. It's going to be great. I'm going to try to post some things on the channel about College Game Day and whatnot and try to get some inside stuff for you guys. Maybe take some cool pictures and whatnot. But yeah, make sure to like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. And I'll see you all later. Take care.